Most stories we hear start with words on a page or maybe with a look at some ancient ruins. But the story we're chasing today, well, it begins with the people who are living it, right now. This story is so old, its echoes go all the way back to the very dawn of modern humanity. So today, we're going to go on a journey to find the living keepers of that story. And our first clues? They're in a place you might not expect.
So what if I told you that to really understand our most distant past, we don't just have to look at dusty bones and old stone tools? What if there was a group of people, alive today, whose genetics, whose culture, and whose stories hold a key to unlocking the secrets of our shared origins? This is not science fiction, not at all. This is a real human story, and we're about to piece together all the clues to find out exactly who they are.
All right, so where does our search for this living history begin? It takes us to the vast, sun-drenched landscapes of southern Africa. It's here, out in the sand and the scrub, that we find our first clues to a people who have watched millennia of human history just unfold before their eyes. We're heading into the Kalahari Desert. Now, on the surface, it seems like a pretty tough place to live, but for tens of thousands of years, this has been home. It's a landscape that has preserved a way of life, a culture that has survived against some pretty incredible odds. This semi-arid region is the heartland of the people we're looking for, a group who've lived as semi-nomadic hunter-gatherers for longer than almost any other people on the entire planet.
Okay, so before we get to their real name, let's look at a name that was given to them by their neighbors. The Nama people called them the San, which pretty much translates to bush dwellers. And that name, it really speaks to their deep, intimate connection with this land. It describes who they are by where they live, a people who are tied to the natural world in a way that's hard for us to even imagine. But this is just one piece of the puzzle. To really get their story, we need to dig a lot deeper.
So our next set of clues, they're not spoken. They're literally etched into the very rock of the continent. This is the physical, tangible evidence of their incredible ancient history, a history book that's made out of stone. In the caves and rock shelters all across southern Africa, we find their archives. I mean, this is some of the oldest rock art in all of Africa, and possibly the oldest anywhere on the continent. And this isn't just, decoration. This is documentation. It's their history, their spirituality, and a record of their daily life, all painted by the ancestors of the very people who still live in this region today.
And what's absolutely incredible is that this art, it's not some dead tradition. Some of these sites, especially over in Botswana, are still visited by their descendants today. They actually retouch the paintings, keeping the stories of their ancestors alive. These paintings give us such a valuable window into their world. They show animals that are spiritually important, scenes from community life, and even major historical events, like their first encounters and conflicts with Bantu-speaking peoples who moved into their lands. It's a living testament to their enduring presence.
The rock art is ancient, for sure, but the archaeological evidence goes back even further, a lot further. Back in 2012, there was a discovery in South Africa that just sent shockwaves through the scientific community. They found a set of tools that dated all the way back to 42,000 BC. But here's the most incredible part. They were almost identical to the tools still being used by the modern descendants of these people. Just think about that for a second. A single technological tradition spanning more than 44,000 years. That level of cultural continuity is it's mind-boggling. But the evidence isn't just in their art or their tools. It's written in their very DNA. Get this, recent genetic research has found that this group has some of the greatest genetic diversity of any people on Earth. Now, why does that matter? Well, high diversity like that is a hallmark of a really, really old population. It suggests they could be one of the foundational groups, an ancestral population cluster, as researchers call it, from which all other modern humans might have emerged. We could literally be looking at a piece of our own origin story right here. Okay, so we've looked at the physical stuff, the tangible evidence. Now let's turn to the intangible, to the world of myth and spirit and story. Every culture has its creation stories, right? The tales that explain the world. And the stories of this people, well, they're as profound and as ancient as their art and their genes. At the very center of their spiritual universe is this figure known as Khoisan. He's the supreme being, but he's not some simple, perfect creator. No, Khoisan is a divine trickster, a really complex deity who has the power to both create and to destroy. In one story, he creates a fire that just consumes everything, even himself, only to pop back into existence and try again, teaching his children how to control the flame. He can take any form, but he is most often seen as a praying mantis or an antelope, which is considered the master animal and a key source of life. One of their most beautiful myths explains how the moon was created. So the story goes that Kagan's children killed his favorite antelope. He was filled with rage and grief, and he pierced the antelope's gallbladder. The bitter fluid sprayed out, blinding him and creating the darkness of night. As he wiped the gall from his eyes with an ostrich feather, he just threw it into the new darkness, and there it stayed, glowing in the sky, as the moon. It's this incredible story of creation that's born from loss and from anger. Their myths also try to explain the great mysteries of life, like why death is permanent. In another story, Kagan sent an insect to deliver a message to all of humanity. Just as the moon dies and is reborn, so too will you die and be reborn. Simple enough, right? But a fast-running rabbit overtook the slow insect, wanting to deliver the important message himself. In his hurry, though, he got it backwards. He told people, just as the moon dies and perishes, so too will you. Kagan was furious at this mistake. He struck the rabbit in the face, splitting its lip forever. And because of a rabbit's mistake, death became final. So these ancient stories, they speak to this timeless worldview, but the history of this people has not been static. Not at all. They have faced immense disruption and change, especially over the last couple thousand years. Their story isn't just one of ancient origins, it's also one of incredible resilience. So starting around the 3rd century BC, Bantu-speaking farmers began migrating south, and they pushed many of these hunter-gatherers into the tougher parts of the Kalahari. Then in the 17th century, a much more violent disruption began when Dutch colonists arrived. They faced intense persecution, even campaigns of extermination. By the 19th century, their world had been changed forever. Some groups adapted by joining the new market economy, trading things like ivory and ostrich feathers, or hiring out their legendary tracking skills to European hunters. But here's the thing. Despite centuries of pressure, displacement, and persecution, they endured. By the 20th century, their population was estimated to be around 100,000 people. And as you can see here, the largest populations today are found in Botswana and Namibia, with smaller groups in places like Angola and South Africa, all continuing to navigate the challenges of the modern world while holding on to their ancient heritage. All right, we've looked at the clues. They're carved in stone, they're written in DNA, and they're spoken in myth. We've seen their ancient origins and their modern resilience. Now it's time. It's time to put all of these pieces together and finally give a name to this incredible people. They are the San, the original bush dwellers, the people whose ancestors painted the rocks, whose genetics connect us to our earliest modern human relatives, and whose stories tell of a trickster god and a mistaken rabbit. They are a living, breathing link to a world that existed tens of thousands of years before anyone ever thought to write down history. Now, it's really important to remember that the term San isn't one single group. It actually refers to several distinct societies. Among the best known are the Kung, that's pronounced Kun, who live in Namibia and Botswana. Then you have the Ni Nuran, or Niran, of Botswana, and the Jiwi, pronounced Gui, and the Ji Yana, or Zu, who live in the central Kalahari. Each one has its own unique traditions and history, and they all contribute to this rich tapestry that is San culture. So, when you put it all together, the conclusion is just undeniable. The San people hold an absolutely unique place in the story of humanity. The evidence from every single field, archaeology, genetics, anthropology, it all points to them as one of the world's most ancient, continuous cultures. Their history isn't just their own, it's a fundamental part of our collective human story. The source material puts it just perfectly. The San are an invaluable resource in understanding early human life. By studying their history, their adaptability, their deep knowledge of the natural world, we get a much clearer window into where we all came from. They are not relics of the past. They are a living, breathing part of our present, and they carry the wisdom of millennia. And all of this leaves us with one last, really crucial question. The story of the San people proves that history isn't just found in dusty archives. It lives in people, in their languages, and in their traditions. And it makes you wonder, what other secrets of our shared human past are out there, just waiting to be understood, held in the stories and cultures of indigenous peoples all across the globe, just waiting for us to finally listen?